Hi, I'm Janelle Cross. Welcome to Family and Finances, Planning for Marriage and Children. We all want to make fast financial progress, but life can get hard if you take on too much too soon. Milestones like buying a home are exciting, but quickly turn stressful if you're not financially prepared. So start with a safety first mindset. Build a strong financial foundation. Save $1,000 in your emergency account and set a goal of saving 3 months of living expenses. Create a realistic spending plan and stick to it. Start a debt elimination plan if needed, and enroll in your 401k, especially if a company match is offered. With these foundational steps in place, you'll be ready to take on the big things we'll discuss in today's session. First up, buying a home. Start smart by avoiding the temptation to raid your 401k. If you need to raid your retirement account, perhaps it isn't the right time to take on a mortgage. Next, don't spend more than 35% of your pay on your mortgage payment. To lower your payment, aim to save 10 to 20% for your down payment, which also avoids PMI or primary mortgage insurance, an extra fee when you don't put enough money down. Also ask your agent about programs for first-time homebuyers. When I bought my first home, my dad warned that the mortgage is the smallest of home ownership costs. Boy, was he right. Owning a home means you're on the hook for major costs like replacing a leaky roof and the smaller ones like tending to landscaping. And then there's the money you'll spend on home improvement. The more you stretch to cover the mortgage, the less you'll have for other expenses, which can turn your joy into anxiety. Buy a home because you're ready, not because you've been convinced that renting is throwing money out the window. Marriage is another big life change, and like buying a home, there's a lot of excitement in the early stages. But as marriage unfolds, you'll need to learn to compromise, problem solve, and handle stress together. A major source of relationship stress is money. Although not an easy topic of conversation, if you can't talk about money before you marry, you might find it impossible to manage finances together after you've tied the knot. Know each other's income and credit scores, and be honest about debt and spending habits. Talk about financial goals too, and set a few goals together. Be honest about where you're starting. Discover where you are on the financial hierarchy, and if you're in different places, don't be deterred. Just commit to making decisions together, keeping each other on track, and of course, celebrating successes along the way. First comes love, then comes the most expensive line item in your budget. Just kidding. Being a mom is my favorite job, but that doesn't mean it's easy or cheap. First, understand your health insurance. If you have an HSA, save as much as you can. Contributions are tax deductible, and withdrawals for healthcare expenses, like having a baby, are tax free. If you have a flexible spending account, remember items like monitors and nursing equipment are eligible purchases. Next, beware the baby registry. When I had my first child, I lived in an 800 square foot row home. I knew my tiny house was not nearly large enough for all the stuff the sales lady insisted I needed to bring my son home. By the time my daughter arrived, I learned there's actually very little you need to bring that baby home. So focus on essentials and check with parents that might be a stage ahead of you. Most are happy to lend you the bouncy chair they used for 2 months before baby tired of it. Now's the time to build up emergency savings too, especially if you'll be off work with reduced pay. And review your spending plan since you'll have new budget items like childcare, which can cost as much as a mortgage. When you have a new baby, you'll no doubt hear, enjoy this time, it goes so fast. And as a parent, I can say this is most definitely true. It might be hard to believe when you haven't slept through the night in 9 months, but in the blink of an eye, you'll be planning a high school graduation party. While we believe college is not for everyone, odds are your child will need some post-secondary education or training. There are lots of careers that offer better wages and far less debt than jobs that require a 4-year degree. So before you invest in a 4-year degree, make sure the jobs that interest your child require one. One of the most tax-advantaged ways to save for post-secondary education is in a 529 plan. These accounts have tax benefits for saving and are used tax-free to pay for higher education. Also, anyone can contribute, so encourage grandparents to add dollars to baby's 529 instead of bringing a new stuffed animal every time they come to visit. With all these big changes, the cost of experiencing the unexpected grows. From a medical emergency to a car accident, the consequences of being unable to work, or worse, losing a spouse, are much higher now. As your situation changes, it's a good idea to review your insurance coverages. Like most things, insurance needs change over time. Take life insurance, for example. When you're single with few responsibilities, your needs are pretty minimal. But as your situation changes, needs increase. And then again, as children leave home and mortgages are paid off, your needs might actually decrease. So managing your insurance plan is a process and something you should review regularly. All these exciting changes make it feel like life has just begun. But the more intertwined your life becomes with others, the more important it is to complete your estate planning. Work with an attorney to document your wishes in the event of your death or disability. The key estate planning documents are your last will and testament. This is where you designate a person to settle your estate, guardians for your children, and provide instructions for distributing your possessions. Next, your power of attorney, which authorizes a person to act for you in the event of your disability. And your living will, which describes your wishes for life-sustaining measures you do or do not want to employ in the event of a terminal condition. Finally, you might consider establishing a testamentary trust within your will. In many states, young children cannot inherit assets. If something happens to you before your children reach legal age, your assets may not be accessible unless you establish a trust within your will. These types of trusts define rules for how money can be spent while your children are underage, including basic needs, education, etc. Then you can restrict the distribution of remaining funds to specific ages. For example, you might pay 25% at age 25, 30, 35, and 40. This allows your children's financial decision-making to mature and avoids decisions they may regret later. You'll also need to name a trustee to ensure your rules are followed. We recommend a person or institution other than the guardian for this role, which keeps then parenting and financial authorities separate. As your life situation changes, you'll also need to revisit beneficiary designations. Now, your will provides for the disposition of possessions that do not have named beneficiaries, but for 401ks, IRAs, life insurance, etc., you must name beneficiaries. In the case of marriage, many states consider retirement accounts to be marital assets. That means that naming anyone other than your spouse as the sole primary beneficiary requires your spouse's notarized signature. So if you have children from a previous relationship, for example, and you want to divide your beneficiaries between those children and your current spouse, that's not a problem. You'll just need to have your spouse sign off to be sure your wishes are executed as you desire. Occasionally, we see someone list their last will and testament as their beneficiary. We strongly discourage this. Your will cannot inherit anything, so your 401k will be cashed out and paid to your estate. If you have outstanding debts, your 401k may go to your creditors instead of your loved ones. So be sure to name people as your beneficiaries. The exception to this are trusts. If you establish the children's trust we just talked about, you may list the trust established in my last will and testament as your beneficiary. We've covered a lot of ground. To learn more about the topics most relevant to your situation, we encourage you to check out our other video workshops. And of course, remember, we're here to help you as well. If you have questions, just reach out. We look forward to connecting with you.